Hi, thanks for letting me join this. So my talk today will be, I thought it might be helpful to meet somebody on the other side of the table, meet a Bugcrowd admin. So I'm Jim Hebert, a senior security engineer at Twitch. So this is your show. Why am I here? Well, I'll be honest. I've been lurking all morning. I'm looking to pick up new tricks. I'm also monitoring to see if I can learn any frustrations, learn if there's anything I can do better as a program admin by hearing researchers grumble about what they find frustrating. You know, we heard duplicates, for example, earlier, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. And if you're going to share your world with me, I want to return the favor a little bit and share some of my world with you. I think there might be some ways that that information helps you be even more effective. And most importantly, though, I'm here to say thank you for what you do. Thank you for helping us secure Twitch and everything else. So in order to do that, this is the outline of the talk. It's a short talk. I just took a half-hour slot here. We'll do the obligatory who the heck am I slide, talk about the life cycle of the information you give us, what we do with it, and how that might affect minor ways that you would want to report that information to us, and then also tell you about some of the tenets that we operate our program by, some things that you can rely on from us and some things that don't work so well with us. So the quick intro slide about me, I'm the current program owner at Twitch, which is a private program, and we'll talk about that more in a second, but I might be known to a few more people because I'm previously a Buggy Award winner in 2016 and 2017 when I helped run the program at Fitbit. And even farther back before that, I was a tiny, tiny cog in the enormous Google Vulnerability Reward Program machine. So I have people like Eduardo to thank for teaching me what it means to run a good VRP. And I have been somebody who's been on the other side of the table occasionally. I get a little nervous doing this. I'm kind of shy about doing it, but I do know what it's like to submit a bug and hope it goes well and try to keep that empathy in mind while we run our program. But the rest of the time, I'm just a usual AppSec engineer doing the usual AppSec engineer stuff. And this talk is just my opinions. I can't claim that every program administrator thinks this way, but especially with us having a private program, you might think, why am I even going to bother to describe this to the general public? But I hope that if I share some of what goes through my head when I deal with issues, that there's enough other people that think in a similar way that these insights will be useful to you. And I hope that you meet other people who engage this topic with the respect and gratitude that I hope to convey today. So real quick, the bug lifecycle, it's not a big secret to say that bugs come in, the Bugcrowd staff touches them, they're doing repro, confirming things are in scope, applying. As Hate Shape said, we almost always just accept whatever priority bucket they put things in, and they screen out some duplicates. We do some further deduplication because sometimes we can see at the source level that things are duplicate, things that aren't obviously duplicate. So not obvious enough that the triage staff could do it, we actually award the money. And then a step that we're going to talk about more in a minute is sometimes I have to translate these bug reports for developers, and we might schedule some broader follow-ups and so on. Obviously, the engineers fix it, and then we wait for them to fix it, we confirm the fix, and we close it. And that brings me to one of the first points to point out. People, I think, I've run into people with different ideas about whether or not we should expect researchers to retest things and confirm the fix. And so I'll just share with you my personal opinion, which is I think the way bounty programs are structured, I can't really make you do that. You've sold us the bug information, we've given you the money. We can't count on you to confirm the fix. So we structure our program assuming that you won't, and we rely on ourselves to confirm the fix. If you want to confirm the fix, I appreciate it. I love it when people check my back. Sometimes they catch me making a mistake, and I love it. But I see it as extra from you and appreciate it. So that's my perspective on that. But I want to talk more about this deduplication and translating for developers thing. So we have to translate bug reports that come into us and give them to developers. And my attitude is we put a senior security engineer like me interfacing to you. And my thinking behind that is you deserve someone who understands you. You deserve to be able to write a bug report and use terms like IDOR and be able to express yourself quickly and say, just do this in burp or load this up in burp repeater and get somebody who understands what you're talking about. I also think, by the way, that's another reason why we're really lucky to have Bugcrowd's triage staff help us with this stuff. Again, because you deserve to have somebody who understands what you're saying. Now, on the other hand, I know my developers and I know what tools they're not as familiar with or what terms they're not as familiar with. And so sometimes what I'm doing when I get a report is taking what you wrote and translating it so that it'll go smoother, that I can hand it to the developer. It might mean that I expand certain acronyms out. It might mean something that, like, you did the testing with burp, and it's great that you did the testing with burp, but I might translate those steps to reproduce as, here's how to do it with copy as curl and Chrome, because I know this developer doesn't have burp installed and they do have Chrome installed and they're comfortable with that. And of course, I'll also do other things like add in links to our internal wiki and training and stuff like that, stuff that I can't possibly expect you to do. So of course I have to be a person in the loop here. So I can't ask you to do any of this stuff. And you're definitely free to send us bugs that are just well written and readable by me and the reference burp and things like that. But I will tell you, I absolutely love it when we have a few participants in our program who seem to understand the wavelength that a typical developer is at, and they write for comprehension for a typical developer. And when those people send us reports, they are copy paste ready for me. I do less work. I can just stick them right in the developer's work queue. And appreciation from me has been known to turn into money or other benefits, a person I think of first the next time we're looking to do a little something extra or whatever. And not only does it maybe help you with me, who would understand you if you didn't do it, but when I've heard people mention in some of the previous talks having situations where you report a bug and the person on the other end says, we don't see the security impact of this, writing at that level of verbosity might also help you get over the hump with some people who aren't quick to see the security impact of things. I think some of the other speakers also mentioned that your customer doesn't, your program administrator isn't guaranteed to understand the impact of some of these terms if they're not as familiar with this stuff. So it's a good habit to be in. That's all the advice for that section. Now, I just want to talk quickly about a couple of tenets that we operate by, and I think some of this will actually sound very familiar from HateShape's talk. The first one is respect and gratitude. The way I look at it is, thank you is the original bounty payment. The original responsible disclosure handshake included sincere respect and gratitude. And I know what I've felt like being on the reporter side. So I always try to run a program that I myself would feel comfortable participating in. So no matter what, if you've spent time on us, we're going to be thankful for it. And even in a situation where, for whatever reason, it turns out not to be in scope, or it turns out to be a duplicate or something, we're always going to be thankful that you put the time in and show you respect. And you and I shouldn't have any of these screenshots like we saw in one of the previous presentations where either side is disrespectful. At the same time, it's not a tenet for our program to be the program that gives out money because it's better to give out a few $100 than to have somebody angry who might want to take action against us later. I feel terrible if I can't give you money in a situation, and we're open to being persuaded with new information. If you think we've made a wrong decision, I'm always open for people to appeal things to me and ask me to reconsider, but we're not a program that operates on guilt or fear, and we don't throw money at just trying to make sure people are unhappy. The other thing that, and I was smiling all during HateShape's talk because this is clearly a thing people want to talk about, is the subject of duplicates. So I can give you some of my perspective on duplicates, because I can just imagine you do the time, you find a legit bug, it's time to get paid. It feels bad not to get paid, right? And I have a lot of empathy for that. So some of the things I can tell you to try to make it feel better is, at least for my program, we set a very high bar for ourselves to call something a duplicate. If you report a bug to me and I take it to a developer and the developer says, come on, man, I knew that, I don't accept that. I say, show me the ticket in Jira that predates us getting this report where we had been tracking this as an open to fix issue, identified as a security issue, and then I'll say, I believe you that this was a known issue. So that's a high bar. And I run the program in such a way that even though nobody from outside is ever going to come in and audit me on this, I run my program in such a way that you could audit me and I could pass. And this means that there's been a bunch of situations where people have reported stuff to us and the developer says, come on, I kind of knew about that. And I say, I don't care. We're paying anyways because I'm going to hold this high bar. It's a high ethical standard for me. And it means that I don't ever have to wonder if somebody's telling me the truth, that they actually did know about that or not. And I also think it's healthy for us. It gives our developers an incentive to avoid managing tech debt in their heads, off the books, get the things in Jira, if for no other reason than because that's going to help us be able to point to it as a duplicate later. And I've also paid for things that were technically duplicate reports if the second report materially enhances my understanding of an issue. That it doesn't just mean a slightly better write-up of what an excess is or whatever, but like if we get a first report and the apparent security impact appears to be a DOS or something, and we get a second report, but the second person has shown this is usable for RCE or something, and if I wasn't going to figure that out on my own, I'm inclined to give that second person money and overlook the fact that I could have marked it a duplicate because I'm genuinely grateful that person added something to the discussion that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So if nothing else, consider that another reason to, like I said before, put some time and effort into writing the stuff. I think the other people's suggestions about having templates of good write-ups so that you don't have to spend time redoing that over and over again is great. Writing things well often works out in your favor. And duplicates that other people found, it's hard to do much about that. The ability to post known issues is going to help with that a lot. But I want to talk about what I call self-duplicates, which is a situation HShape brought up, where if you find the same XSS in the same parameter on a bunch of different pages, it's not clear to you if that's one bug because there's a common function being used on all those pages, or if that's many bugs. And it can be hard to know what to do, whether to submit that a bunch of individual times or submit that all together. So there's no hard and fast rule that I can give you because ultimately you don't have the source code. So there's no 100% effective way to do it. I will say there's some common situations you can probably observe even without the source code. For example, in our scope, we have a bunch of different forum sites that are all powered by the same basic engine. If somebody finds a bug in that engine, we have a one bug. If it's one fix, it's one bug philosophy. And so if we make a fix of that engine, even though we have to deploy that engine to several different websites that have different names, that is one bug for us. And even just within a site, for example, if we have a gadget that appears on multiple different pages, but we make one code change that fixes that gadget all the places that it appears, that's one bug for us. So trying to keep that in mind and planning your attack, and not, for example, if you were testing on our site, not going around to all of the different forum sites, rechecking all of them for the same title of the message XSS or something like that would probably just save you time and save you the disappointment of having us mark a bunch of things duplicate, self-duplicate, right? Duplicate of your original report. But I would also say, because I know that there's no foolproof way for people to know whether certain things are going to be considered a duplicate or not, don't be afraid to ask. Maybe submit the first one and say, I've got more examples of this. Do you want the rest of the examples? Would you consider them duplicates or would you consider them independent bugs? If they say, no, we are confident we're going to fix this in one place, it's going to fix everything, then I can't blame you for not providing the rest of the examples. Maybe sit on them. Maybe wait till I say it's fixed, and then if the other ones still reproduce, then clearly it wasn't a duplicate, right? But I think just in general, sort of having our strategy in mind for how to handle duplicates will help you avoiding over-investing in certain directions of testing. The other thing I can say that's a tenet for our program is we regard the Bugcrowd taxonomy, the vulnerability taxonomy, as part of our commitment to you, which is a little exciting for us sometimes because this is a live updated thing that's not completely in our control, but it's the way things are done on Bugcrowd. And if something's in the vulnerability taxonomy, that this bug pattern is P2, my attitude is, unless I write something in my program brief ahead of time that says we feel otherwise, that is a constantly evolving part of our commitment to you. And so you could take that to the bank. And one of the suggestions that I would make is, if you aren't tracking the vulnerability taxonomy on GitHub, you might want to do it. If I was a bounty hunter, one of the things I might be keeping an eye open for is there anything that used to be P3 that got bumped up to P2, or maybe got subdivided into two distinct cases, one of which becomes a P2 or something. That changes the economics of where you're spending your time, and that would be cool. But if we try to stay ahead of changes in the taxonomy, but occasionally we don't, occasionally we get a bug report where we go, oh, actually, on our site, we don't think that really has any security impact, or we don't really believe in that pattern or whatever. And the way we handle those is we pay for them, and then we update our program scope to not do them in the future, because we take it really seriously that you're taking a leap of faith that if you invest this time, this is the deal. You find this bug, you get the money, and we feel like we should live up to that. So really quick, here's a couple of non-tenants, some things I see that you could probably save some time on not trying with me. One is, it's a tradition with some people to submit bugs and include a link to, here's proof that somebody else paid for this bug pattern from some disclosed bug on HackerOne or something. And I understand that as a survival strategy if you've had bad experiences running into program admins who don't get it and don't want to pay for stuff. But I can tell you that for me, we feel like we get it. We know what's legit for us, what's not, and the fact that somebody else paid for something is usually not going to be considered one way or another for us. And the other thing, and this has only ever come up once in my several years of running a program, but I just wanted to call it out here, is we run a program that is not one of those, if you can prove we own it, it's in scope kind of programs. We have an enumerated scope, and we've heard from one person ever, well, a real intruder would ignore your scope, so why do I have to obey your scope? And you're right that a real intruder would obey your scope, but I just want to give the program administrator's perspective that we have an overall security program. The bounty program fits into a larger strategy. We have a certain budget that you may not be aware of the constraints of and whatever. And for various reasons, there's sometimes reasons why stuff isn't in scope. But at the same time, it's also possible that something isn't in scope just because we have imperfect knowledge or we've been slow in updating scope or whatever. And so I'm totally open to people sending me stuff like, hey, would you be willing to put this in scope? Because if so, it looks juicy. I'd like to spend some time on it. And it's possible that I'll say yes. So I'm open to those kinds of messages. That's my message to you as a program administrator. This is the last slide. Parting thoughts. Again, I want to say thank you for having me here today. Thank you for everything you do helping secure Twitch. And even just beyond Twitch, thank you for securing a bunch of stuff that I use every day, that we all use every day. We're really lucky to have people with your talents helping make the internet a safer place for all of us to use. And just fortunate to have a chance here to say thank you to all of you. I'm Jim Hebert. You can reach us at security@Twitch TV, and I've already seen some follows rolling in on Twitter, so I look forward to boring you with my tweets. Thanks very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jim. Please, everyone in chat, give him, what's your emoji of choice?
Oh, there's Twitch Cop.
Twitch Cop. Okay. Please throw Twitch Cop in the chat, giving Jim a thank you for this awesome presentation. This is the type of presentation that we've talked about in the past, like internally at Bugcrowd, and I was excited to hear from you that you were interested in something like this, and appreciate your time. And there's my dog freaking out.
Oh man, spam Franker Z in the chat for the dog.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and jump back into watching on stream. Thanks, everybody.